Tour Junkies.
What's going on, golf addicts? Welcome to the Texas Children's Houston Open 2025 DraftKings DFS preview. That's right, we're doing a little DFS preview. DB, Pat Perry, just the two of us rocking and rolling. We just did the betting show with our boy Matt Every, dished out a couple of funny facts about his time in Houston. We talked a little bit about the golf course and all that good stuff. We're going to talk about the course here today, some trends to look at, talk through the DFS price range. And, we're like, hey, the Masters is coming. There's a milli maker, 2 or 3 going to be in the lobby. Everybody's going to be itching to play a little DFS, even if you've laid back in the past. There's no reason not to dip your toe in the water now and get involved on DraftKings. It's awesome. So we're excited. DFS is back to our origins. We're going to do this for the next few weeks just to kind of get everybody going again. Get you revved up for Masters. Pat, how we doing? You ready to rock and roll here, sir, as the better DFS player of the two?
Well, thank you, DB. I'm glad you finally mentioned, admitted that after 10 years. But yeah,
I'm man enough to admit it.
Listen, I'm excited. Been playing a lot of DFS lately and have done well. So I'm excited. I'm kind of building that bankroll because we've got these big tournaments coming up for the Masters, and I'm going to be entering them. So I want to build the bankroll, and so yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good week for that.
We are less than 2 weeks away from our Masters content dropping. We're going to do all that early, get that out on the weekend before Augusta, so the weekend of Valero. So that's next weekend. You're going to want to check that out. It's going to be great. We're going to do a couple of new things, maybe a new show that we've not done. We're going to do that for Masters. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into Texas for this week, I think it's always good to kind of debrief and kind of, instead of, it's so easy because there's 40 million golf tournaments a year, just to kind of turn the page super fast, go on to the next week without really kind of looking back at what just happened, especially from a DFS standpoint. So let's talk a little bit about the Valspar. We had, of course, Victor Hovland won on accident, basically. So that happened. Victor Hovland, do you know how do you know what his overall average ownership was, Pat?
I'm going to guess it was somewhere around 6%.
All right, very good. 4.25% on average was the ownership for Victor Hovland. Nobody believing that Victor was. He gave not much reason to believe that he was going to do what he did. It was a duel there with Justin Thomas on the back nine on Sunday. JT was owned around 15.5%. He was one of the top 10 highest owned players. Never thought I'd see this, but Jacob Bridgman was owned more than Justin Thomas. Dang, I just saw that. Wild world we're living in. Tommy Ladd was the highest owned player in the slate at around 42%. Pat, I don't know what the projections were because we do our own projections there in the Nut Hut. But if they were anywhere near that, now he did finish T16. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if I would have even had you told me if you told me he's gonna finish T16 at 40%, I still would have been like, no, I think I'm out. If we're trying to win, right? I don't think I want anything to do with that. Did you have any Tommy Ladd?
The only place that I had Tommy Ladd was actually in one and done, which is probably good for anybody that does one and done, because that means it's not going to be a good pick. Because I suck. I've sucked. Is there ever been a time in our whole entire Tour Junkies lifetime where we've been good at one and done? I know that's not what we're here to talk about. That's the only reason I had Fleetwood, and it was the stupidest pick ever.
No, we've never been good at it. I was looking at the top 15 highest owned players on the slate. Tommy Ladd came in around that 40% number. Only 3 missed the cut, but really only a few kind of paid off. Tommy, he was 10.3K. Sepp Straka was 10 even. And yet again, Michael Kim, who I think made the cut on the number and surged to a decent day. He was up there. He didn't really pay off that much. I guess JT paid off at 10.8, obviously. Jacob Bridgman, 7,400. He did quite well. He paid off. But, there weren't a whole lot of guys that you were probably fine passing up on a lot of the chalk. And of the top 15 players in terms of points scored, no one was owned over 17%, and 8 of them were sub 5% ownership. So That would be like Victor Hovland, who we already mentioned.
Yeah.
Rio.
Yes, I told CA.
There we go. A little slow. You got it. And you stay with us.
Sorry,
Davis
I was.
Riley, our boy Matt Every's favorite. Davis Riley was up there. He had a decent week. So anyway, a little bit of post-mortem there. The other thing to remember is, boy, there was a lot of chatter on X about the tee time waves last week, Pat. I don't know if you saw it.
Lots. Yes, there was a lot of chatter.
It was constant. I mean, we're getting emails in our inboxes. We're getting DMs. I mean, it was like, what's the weather? And to do this and that wave advantage of this and that. And I mean, I was like, we were inundated. And I don't know where you landed on the Wednesday night chat, but my card was very mixed. I just put on who I wanted.
I did too.
Yeah.
That's where I ended up, and I got so many questions, DB, on the Wednesday night chat that I ended up just deferring to others because I don't know.
Classic.
Sometimes I just don't know what. Yeah, that's a classic thing to do in that situation because I just don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It's classic.
You know me too. I get really frustrated about all the weather waves and stuff like that. I just want to pick my guys and go.
Well, it
But
ended up being a half a shot difference on average in the 36 hole splits, and that could be chalked up to a number of things, not necessarily weather. Exactly 39 players from each wave made the cut, an absolute even split. And that's a great reminder that, when you're building lineups, if there is a weather wave, you never know. Sometimes the weather works out the way that they think it does. Sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes even when it does, the tour delays something or something happens and it'll flip. And so when you're building lineups, it's never a bad idea to diversify some of those lineups. Maybe consider, stacking the opposite wave that everybody thinks is going to be terrible, or having a percentage of those lineups just be whoever you think is the better option and just mix and match it regardless of weather wave. So you could have gotten some serious advantage, some nice ownership discounts on a lot of players last week had you just not gotten wrapped up in the craziness that was on X or in the little golf DFS bubble that we all live in, that there was going to be some massive wave advantage. So take note, remember that, file that away, people. Because again, as we've always said for years doing this, 10 years, you're trying to win the contest you're in. You're trying to finish in the top 1% or less of lineups. So only do that. Just don't, if you're playing in tournaments, don't just try and cash. Don't just try and min cash. You're trying to win these things. So unless you're playing in double ups and 50-50s, play to win. And you can't play to win by doing what everybody else is doing. So that's usually the good rule of thumb. Let's talk a little bit about the bet the number model and what we're seeing, because I noticed, let's talk about some key stats here. When we talk about Memorial Park Golf Course, it did get moved to this spot in March. So there's some overseed people deal with. We had a little bit different golf course than we saw the years prior. Last year when Steven Yeager won, it's a big boy golf course, par 70, long, a lot of par fours, near 500 yards. It is, and we're looking at some possible rain and wind this week too, so it could play softer and longer. You're going to need guys that can absolutely move it here. We had a caddy tell us a couple of years ago that if you hit it under 300 yards here, you have no chance. So you're going to need to move it. You're going to have some long approaches into those long par fours, and then the chipping is a thing. So Pat, also they've talked about making it like this Augusta prep. Any thoughts on that?
yeah, I mean, I think you get that when you're leading up to Augusta. There's a lot of players that used to sort of ask for it. But nothing's really going to equal out to what we see at Augusta. But when you have some of these overseeded greens, like we're going to see the next probably couple of weeks, you've got it's long off the tee, that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some similarities. Short game is another one this week on this tournament, where I think you typically in our model this week in the bet the number model, we see where the short game matters, and it does matter, of course, in Augusta. So I think that is something that we could you could correlate a little bit, but and obviously just the length off the tee.
Yeah, the bet the number model has fairway chipping. So chipping just from the tight grass surfaces, which can be filtered down on bet the number. That is in there. So, my eyes immediately went to that. And then I built my own model that's public out there. You guys can look at if you want DB's Houston model. It's a lot more nerdy than the BTN model, but it's there. And then the long approaches and stuff is going to be a factor. So that is essentially what you're looking for Memorial Park. And we've got a couple studs at the top with Scotty and Rory. And then it's kind of a drop off. It's not the strongest field. It's not the worst field. It's definitely not the worst. But I think it's going to be an entertaining week. I think between, how well Rory's been playing and how this course suits him fantastically. He hasn't really played here before, but it suits him super well. It's a slightly different approach than what he's taken leading up to Augusta and the Masters in years past. But then you've also got Scotty, who plays here every year and has a great record here, but he's not quite won. And he's also not quite looked like himself since starting 2025. Hasn't looked bad, but he just doesn't look like dominant Scotty of last year. He's trying to find a little extra gear for Augusta and then the steep drop off. So, you did have Steven Yeager take down Scotty Scheffler here last year, beat him by a shot. So is it a chance for, another, a first time winner or somebody to kind of come out of nowhere? Who knows? But I think Memorial Park it's going to be an interesting enough test for these guys, especially with the weather. That'll be fun. But in terms of DK pricing, with those two at the top eating up a lot of salary, I don't know. I was kind of tinkering around with building lineups earlier today. I think the pricing is a little sharper, a little tighter than maybe it's been for most of the year. Like a lot of the year, I feel like it's been kind of soft and it's been easy to kind of jam in who you want. This week, I don't know. I feel like it was kind of tougher. For me, if I got to pick between one of those two, I think I lean Scotty. And I'm willing to pay $1,000 more just because we talked about a little bit on the betting show, Pat, but he's got a little more juice to want to really play well all 4 days here and really find some momentum leading up to Augusta. And he's got the experience here. What do you think about those two?
Yeah, I would agree. I think between Scotty and Rory, I would probably go with Scotty, even though I know I'm going to spend up for it. I just think Rory he's sort of seen what he needed to see at the Players, and he won at Pebble, and he's really just sort of feels like he's got the game where he wants it heading into Augusta, but he still wants to play tournaments. He doesn't want to just coast in there like he's kind of done before, and then it's always sort of disappointing. But Scotty to me has a lot more to play for this week. Obviously, he almost won here last year, and I think for me, I would rather just pay up for Scotty. Look for some leverage, down below with this kind of field. We're going to be able to find it. Find a 3, 4, 5% guy like a Victor, not as big of a name as Victor, but somebody that we can add in our lineups that's cheap. Put him with Scotty. I think it's easier to do this week. So Scotty for me over Rory.
Do you think Scotty comes in higher owned, or do you think Rory with $1,000 discount and the better form ekes out a little bit higher ownership percentage?
I feel like Rory's going to end up with a little bit higher percentage. Now, DB, I don't know if you know this, but I'm not very good at ownership projections.
I'm not a very smart man. Whatever.
I'm not a very smart man with ownership projections.
Yes, we know.
But I do think that it's going to be a slight difference that Rory's going to be higher than Scotty this week.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think I lean that way, but we'll see. Let's talk about some chalk. Let's looking all the way down the board. Who do we think the most popular players are going to be? Maybe name a few of them. Obviously, Rory and Scotty are probably going to be 1 and 2. I do think that's going to happen. I don't think many people are going to skip both of those guys. Although I think you can. I've tinkered around making some lineups with those guys, doing just that. But I'm curious on a couple of these other names that are kind of middling names here. I think that Jake Knapp at 7,700 is going to be fairly popular. I'm gonna give you a couple of mine, then you can tell me where you landed out on these. And I actually think, I said it last week. I said I was gonna give him a chance, even though I hate his stupid hat, and it worked out. Highsmith might be like a dude. He might be kind of a guy, and I think people are starting to have noticed, and he's playing well. He feels somewhat safe, at least right now, just as good as he's been playing since Mexico, really. T17 in Mexico. Again, if you think this is some sort of comp, he's above average ball speed, above average driving accuracy, good short game in the last few weeks. The putter's been hot. Great Florida swing out of Highsmith. So I think people are going to feel like Highsmith gives them that made cut equity that they crave in that mid range at 7,800.
Okay. I didn't know you were going to go there, but I'm going to go even further down, DB, because I think when you throw in Scotty into your lineup at that 12.7 price, you definitely got to get down pretty cheap after that.
Yeah.
And I think Alejandro Tosti down there is going to be, I think he's going to be somewhat chalky because the people are going to have to land on him at 6,700. And he finished second here last year. He had the top 10 a few weeks ago in Mexico. Has missed his last two cuts, but I think very tough, similar golf courses. It didn't really fit him that well. Although I think Tosi had a decent round going at the Players. It just totally derailed, if I remember correctly. But I think Tosti's going to have some 6K chalk on him. I'm feeling that with what I'm hearing out there in the social medias, DB, and all the kind of stuff that's out there.
You do keep your ear to the ground of social media.
Yeah, I do. Plus, just the fact that when we put in Scotty at 12.7, you got to find something down there, and I think he's gonna be the chalk there in the 6K range.
Well, I mean, looking here at BTN on screen, I mean, there's a clear, they talk about the police officers as the thin blue line, right? He's got the thin green line on BTN. There's 1 week where there's a ton of green, and it was Mexico.
Yeah.
Where you could just send it and go from there, and that's what he's going to do. He hits it a long way. He likes to be aggressive. So, yeah, an interesting spot for Tosti. I don't hate it. I mean, I don't know how chalky he's going to be. I don't know how much people trust Tosti. He's going to get some attention, but I would be shocked if he's all that chalky. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, you do have to get down there in that 6K and get dirty when you.
Well, and that's just, going down to the 6K range. I think there's some chalk. But, I mean, up top, I think the guys are going to be, like the Aaron Rye. I think Aaron Rye is going to certainly be chalk. I think.
Will he? I mean, I wonder what percentage of lineups are going to have either Rory or Scotty in there. You can't have both, but I wonder what percentage are going to have either one of them. It's going to be
but that's the thing, though. Then what do you like? All the folks that then say, "Well, I'm not going to play Rory or Scotty," they're probably going to start with Aaron Rye,
which is definitely a viable strategy. And I think game theory wise, we should do that. But for me, I don't want to play anybody in that spot other than Rory and Scotty until I get to Jason Day and Steven Yeager. That's just me personally. Like if I'm for my lineups without one of those guys, Rory or Scotty, and I go balanced, like really balanced, it's Yeager. It might be Yeager and Day. I like both of those guys here. I like Yeager a lot. Day, we'll see. If it's cold and windy, I don't know about his sniffles and his vertigo and his, all of his things, all of his issues. Coronavirus, whatever, all the things that J-Day can get and have go wrong. But I do like Yeager a lot. I just don't, like Wyndham's not playing great. Finau's not playing great. Sungjae's not playing great. Thompson's a little enticing. It feels a little overpriced for me. I don't hate Minwoo, but I don't love Minwoo at 9,600, and he's so popular because everybody loves him. Like he's gonna get some juice.
Yeah, he will.
I cannot justify JJ Spawn at 9,900, even though obviously the guy's playing fantastic golf right now. Maybe we should.
Yeah, maybe we should actually sit there and look at JJ for a minute.
Okay, like if JJ was like 8 or 9%, I can't believe I'm even entertaining
this.
If
JJ was 8 or 9%, I'd be looking at it.
A double-digit $9,900 little butterball JJ Spawn, I'm not doing. But if he's single digits, butter me up.
Yes. Yeah. Me too.
Okay, let's talk some pivots. Let's talk some guys, who we're not thinking are going to be highly owned, highly rostered. This is a lot for me in the 7 and 6K range. Really, really mainly the 7K range. But who are some pivot options for you that you like?
Can you give me Tony Finau as a pivot?
Yeah, I think you can get.
Can I get him as a pivot? Because I'd like him as a pivot.
Yeah,
pivot when I pivot.
Yeah, yeah.
I
He's
mean,
not.
I gotta look.
Is he
He's
good though anymore? I mean,
I think he's
he
good
just
enough. I think
had
he's good
another
enough.
baby. I don't know.
Well, he's got the course history here, obviously, with the first back in 2022, which I think was the first time they played it here when they moved it into the spring, and then he had the second place last year.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I feel like it's just a good pivot play. It's just one of those guys that's he's a really good golfer. He's in a weaker field other than Rory and Scotty up top. So he's one that I do like.
Look at his form. If you look at Finau on Bet the Number and you look at his form leading up to this event last year, look at the green and the difference between last year coming into this event and this year coming into this event.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm
very
seeing it.
different player, but that's why you're getting him as a pivot.
You are, but also it's not like his finishes since the Farmers have been really that bad. I mean, he had a 13th at Pebble, 5th at Genesis, T36 at Arnold Palmer, and then missed the cut at the Players.
Yeah.
Everything was bad except for off the tee, which is
Yeah.
important this week. At the Players, so I think Finau. I think he's gonna be a pretty good pivot option this week.
Um, my guys are greasy down low in the sevens and sixes. So
Well, I
my
got one more. Then I think I
okay,
don't
go.
know. He wasn't a pivot option, I guess, last week because you were saying earlier on in the Valspar he's pretty chalky. But I thought Bridgman might end up being a little bit.
No, he's people are on to Bridgman.
Yeah.
I think people are on to his consistency and how well he's playing it right now. I don't think you're going to get away with him being a pivot. I mean, yeah, 15% last week, and then he played as well as he did. He's not a pivot.
Well, okay. One more before you go
Okay.
into your range, but can I go with Thomas Dietrich? Can he be a
Yeah,
pivot?
I think he could be. I could be wrong, but I think you're right. I think Dietrich could get there.
Dietrich at 8,600,
The 8K
28.
range I don't like,
It
which
is
is
tough, but it's going to be tough to stay in there. You're almost going to have to skip it a lot especially if you go up there with Rory and Scotty.
for sure. Yeah. So for all those Rory Scotty lineups, there's not going to be a lot of 8K. That's why it's going to be completely blanked. So yeah, I mean to really get contrarian on the people, hammer that 8K range. And I don't love it, but if I had to pick, just while we're here, you talked about Smiley on the betting show. I don't hate that, but I think he'll be one of the more popular plays in that range. In terms of my favorite pivots here, I mean, I mentioned Jaeger, but I don't think he's going to be a pivot. I actually think I'm a little intrigued by McNeely, even though he's looked bad his last two outings. It just, I don't know. He's played really well at this tournament a few times, and it felt like he had really leveled up this year. Maybe he just had a couple off weeks and he's rested. Now he's going to come back. I don't know. I kind of feel something about Mav, and then Keith Mitchell, which I've not done all year. I've not been on the Keith Mitchell thing, and I'm healthier because of it. Um, it's part of the Maha movement. We're trying to make America healthy again by
Mhm.
not playing Keith Mitchell in things. But I'm tempted now. It's like red 40. Just give it to me. I need a little hit of it right now. I know it's bad for me and I could have cancer, but I need it. Keith is calling to me a little bit at 8K. Just his ability off the tee. He's still hitting it decent enough with his irons. Like, God, if he could just chip anything, just two good chips a day, and we'd be in business. So
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
In that range, or down in the 7K, 7,200. I played him a little bit last week. He made the cut, but he didn't make a lot of noise. I don't know what my deal is with Ryan Gerard, but I keep getting Ryan Gerard
Well,
like in my
he really feels like are you sure you're not doing your taxes right now and that's your CPA?
no, that's Brian Campbell, whatever it is.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's Brian Campbell.
No,
Okay.
Ryan
He
Gerard is
won. He won a golf tournament.
he did, but Ryan Gerard's way cooler than a guy
Okay.
named Brian Campbell who won a golf tournament. Um, Irons are going well. Off the tee's pretty solid. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's a solid top 25 guy. And at 7,200, he's probably going to be like 4% or less. I like that. We talked about this guy on the betting show, but Victor Perez right underneath him at
Oh, yeah.
7,100.
Stole him from me. That's who I was about to talk
Oh, I
about.
didn't think you had anybody down low that you really
Well,
liked.
I changed my mind. But, yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead about Victor Perez because I got to talk about him on the betting show, so you can do this one.
Well, I've always loved Victor. We go way back, the Frenchman. But hits it plenty long, decent long iron player. 20 T17 here last year. Can chip it when I don't know. Chipping's been a little sus lately. Putting's always bad, but 7,100 the upside for Vicky P. I kind of like. And then the last one for me is Danny Walker at 6,600. I think people might ignore Danny Walker. But he had a really good Players Championship, missed the cut last week, probably disappointed some folks. This is a far better course for him than Valspar. Needs to make some noise with his limited starts and opportunities that he gets. So I'm going Danny Walker at 66.
All right, I got one more.
Okay.
Matty Schmid, 7,000. Can hit it off the tee, playing well, DB. I think Matty Schmid's worth definitely a look there, 7,000. So finished T21 here last year, by the way.
Matty Schmid, I usually have a soft spot for. He does scare me a little bit. He can run hot. He can definitely run hot. He can also, blade a chip into somebody's ankle on the other side of the green. He can do that too. Well, I did forget one more, and that's at 6,900. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my guy Stephen Fisk at 69, who's playing well. T28 last week, T4 Puerto Rico, T17 in Mexico. Hits it long and straight off the tee. Irons have been solid the last 3 weeks, maybe three weeks in a row, and can definitely chip it. The putting, little lackluster, but I think Stephen Fisk at 69. I've seen him get a little chatter on X the last few weeks, so he may be one of the more go-to 6K guys. We'll see. Not going to play him if he's chalky, but there's really nobody in the 7K, 6K that's good enough to eat the chalk on, to me.
No, you're 100% correct.
This is one of those weeks where I just told everybody in the Valspar, like, of the 15 highest owned players, really only 3 of them paid off. Like, this is definitely a week where if the guys you like are really projected to be very popular, then just go somewhere else. Figure out somebody else, because this is not the week you probably want to really numb on the chalk.
Yeah.
But get involved. Dip your toe back in the DFS waters. They're getting warm for Augusta. Spring is sprung. The pollen is in the air here in Augusta, right in my backyard. We got a nice little rain today to hopefully wash away the last of it. Augusta's moving and shaking in the community. We'll be, sniffing the magnolias and chowing down on the pimento cheese here in just a couple of weeks. We're excited about it. Like I said, we're going to do a DFS show next week for Valero and a DFS show specifically for the Masters. All the Masters content we're going to drop out on like the weekend before Augusta. So be prepared for that. We'll have you all hot and ready and lathered up for that Monday morning when you wake up and you download the app and you get geared up for what is to come at Augusta National for the first major of the year. And we're pretty excited about that. So check out DraftKings, get into some contests, do your thing, get it all buttered up. JJ spawn it up. Do a 50-50 or double up just to get in there, double up some cash, give you a buy-in for Masters in a couple weeks, right, Pat?
Yeah.
Pat's in the Discord, chumming it up with the people. We got some smart DFS minds in the Discord, talking it up every week. So get involved there too. And let's have a great week. Anything else to add, Pat?
No, just JJ spawning it over here.
He's very buttery. He looks very buttery.
He is, yeah.
And I mean, I mean that with all due respect, and it's a good thing. I'm not, unless you're,
I haven't really.
You have a dairy allergy, I guess that would be a problem. But
yeah.
By the way, speaking of butter, totally random. I went to RecTech Fest on Saturday. You and I both love to cook, love to grill.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our listeners.
They use a lot of butter, I bet, on things.
Holy moly! Have you ever heard of Ralph the Baker?
No, is that an animal or a person?
They had RecTech Fest. They had a stage and they were doing live cooking demonstrations, right? Well, they had a special guest, Ralph the Baker. He's a Cajun cooking person, and He has almost 1 million followers on Instagram. He's huge, apparently. Everybody knew who he was, except for me. But he opens every cook with the biggest. I didn't even know. I had no idea they produced blocks of butter this large. I'm talking like a concrete, what do they call it? A cinder block. I'm talking about
Just a butter?
a block of butter as big as a cinder block that he threw on the flat top insert Rectech to start his Cajun pasta that he made. Cajun crawfish pasta that was delicious.
I
Probably
bet it
because
was.
it had 14
Because it
pounds.
had all the butter.
Yeah.
Had all the
Anyway.
JJ spawn in it.
All that JJ. Give me sprinkle. Add more JJ. Melt down a few JJs in there. All right. That's enough of that. Mayor Screensby Green. See you next week. See you. Out. Tour Junkies featuring David Barnett is not an affiliate of CWM LLC. Opinions expressed by the host or guests do not reflect those of CWM LLC. CWM LLC does not endorse gambling or the entities promoted by the Tour Junkies podcast. David is a non-registered representative of CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.